Hello, Canucks fans, and welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you sign up for an account. My name is Dave Rogelli. I am joined by Harman Dial. Joins me now. Harman, how you doing?
Doing well. Excited to see the defending Stanley Cup champions in town, and just this upcoming stretch in general. There are no easy games over the next week, and this is really going to be a major test for whether this team can hold the fort down. And it's nice that they at least have JT Miller back now that the competition is really starting to ramp up.
Yeah, they get some reinforcements tonight. The massive return that we've all been waiting for. Derek Forbort is back in the lineup, along with JT Miller. I kid, of course. We've got both of those guys coming back tonight. In all seriousness, Derek Forbort is going to be a step up, you hope, on what we've seen so far. We'll talk about the defense core in a minute, but yes, you're right, Harman. JT Miller makes his return, and it comes at a good time, as you just mentioned. A tough schedule coming up for the Canucks here, which is why it would have been nice to get 2 points against the St. Louis Blues, but can't go back in time, can only look ahead. So a tough test against the Florida Panthers tonight. And let's not forget that the Panthers were missing Barkov. And who else were they missing? Ekblad?
Might have been Kachuk, if my
Okay,
memory
yeah,
serves
Kachuk
me.
and Barkov. That's right. Kachuk and Barkov were missing for the first time these two teams faced this year. So a different looking Panthers team than the one that the Canucks beat earlier in the season. We'll preview that game, but first I wanted to talk about JT Miller, and really, let's just hear from JT Miller, because I think this is the thing that everybody was kind of waiting for, is what he would say. He begins his media avail, as you'll see in a second here, requesting that media don't ask about why he was gone and why he took his leave of absence. And that was respected. Like, nobody really asked about that. So here's the full 3-minute media avail that JT Miller had in his first since his leave of absence.
Real quick, I just want to say something. I am playing tonight, and I really would appreciate if we just stayed away from the reasons why I wasn't here from all of you guys. You can ask all you want, but I'm not going to dive into the reasons why I wasn't here the last 3-4 weeks. So I'm here, I'm with the team, and I am ready to look forward to what's going to happen in the future, not necessarily what has happened in the past. So I know you guys are going to ask no matter what, but I'm just going to say I'm not talking about it, but I just want to let you guys know ahead of time.
How are you doing now?
Yeah, I'm excited to play. I want to play, and obviously, fun game to play against the defending champions. So just happy to be around the guys and looking forward to tonight.
What have you seen out of this team since you took a step back?
Finding ways to win, getting contributions from a lot of different guys. Obviously with myself and Phil and Demmer and having some injuries, there's been guys that have stepped up, and it's been nice to see. It was a heck of a road trip by those guys. It's a lot of travel, a lot of games, and come back home and get a couple points has been nice. So obviously we're just trying to. It's been good, but we got a hard schedule the next week. So.
How tough has it been to be away?
Yeah, it sucks. No matter what it's for. This is the family away from family here, and you miss the guys, and just excited to be around them and get back and compete.
How about the support you've received just from the organization, management, players, all of it?
Yeah, I mean a lot from everybody, my agent, my family, and then obviously the guys here. Everybody's been awesome.
How about the fans? We've heard your name chanted at games and even at a wrestling event that was here a few weeks ago.
I'm pretty out of the loop on it, but whatever it was, I appreciate it.
You've been durable in your time here. You haven't missed much game action. It's going to be like ride the bike, just jump back in here midstream tonight.
Yeah, I hope so, but obviously I'm sure rest is expected. I think this weekend's 4 weeks, so I mean it's going to be try to keep it easy on myself, play my game, try to make it. Like I said, just literally try to make it easy on myself. Try to keep it simple. Try to play physical. Things that I can control.
When did you know this was going to be the game?
Pretty much yesterday.
How about the test against the defending champs for the group tonight?
Yeah, for the group, it's a great test. It's going to be a fun game. Obviously, I think the building's going to be awesome, and we know what to expect from them. So, but I think it's important we just worry about ourselves and go. And we know when we do that, we give ourselves a chance against anybody.
What does it mean to be out there with Thatcher Demko again?
Yeah, it's cool. I admire what he's been able to accomplish and overcome, and for him to be out there and being able to watch him last game, it's pretty special. I know it meant a lot to him, and it meant a lot to the guys to see him back there. It's awesome.
You've always been an emotional player, and you've kind of brought that edge to this team. Given what has happened, whatever that may be, do you expect to be that same player?
I told you I wasn't. I mean, I feel like we're toting the line here with that question, so I'm just not going to dive into it.
Did you do a lot of working out right from the time you went left the team? Have you been physically trying to stage?
Yeah, I take care of myself.
Did you watch games closely, or like when you were away, or was being away, like getting away from the game entirely?
A little bit of both, yeah.
He watched the games. He watched some games. He was keeping up to date on the team. So there's JT Miller talking about his leave of absence. Again, doesn't want to dive into the reasons why. We're not going to get into it. Obviously, we're not going to sit here and speculate. He didn't want to talk about it. He's a big part of this team. He's back tonight. I did want to read a couple comments from people watching the show here. Conversation says not answering is a bad look. KP said not really for a guy who wants to have his focus in the right place. Leave him be. Miss L brings up a pretty good point, I think. Says, imagine if it was Petey that took the leave. Everyone would go after him and be upset. And Karan in the chat as well, or Karan in the chat said, yeah, let JT talk about what he wants, when he wants, not when he's prompted by reporters. And then KP said, doesn't matter who it is, especially if you just don't know the circumstances. So I think we'll leave it at that. That's kind of the reaction of people watching the show right now. I'm curious how people think. Excuse me. I'm curious how people think or what people think of all of this. But the big important thing that we're going to focus on, Harm, is him returning to the Canucks lineup tonight.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, my expectations aren't very high as far as what he'll look immediately upon his return, just because I do expect there to be some rust. And even before Miller's absence, let's not forget that he wasn't playing his best hockey. It was far from it. He was benched in that Nashville game. The other recent sort of performance that really stood out was against the Oilers, arguably his worst game of the season. So he was already fighting it before the leave of absence. Now maybe that leave helps hit the reset button, but now that he's re-entering the lineup, I think there are a few things that I'm going to be looking for. Number one, the puck management and decision making with his passing. If you'll remember, he missed all of the preseason except the final one, and in that final preseason game, and even bleeding into the first couple of regular season games, in the defensive zone, he was making uncharacteristically loud defensive zone turnovers, which again is to be expected given the rust. I'm not trying to point that as like, oh, he was playing awful, but it's just those are the elements related to timing and decision making that are often off when a player misses time. So that's the first thing that I'm going to be looking for with JT Miller is how is his timing, how is his puck management, how is his decision making with his passing, because that often makes or breaks how he looks on the ice. We know that when he's at his best, he's an elite playmaker. The types of saucer passes that he can make, finding guys in the slot, it's outrageous, some of the elite level passes he's able to make. But on the flip side, we also saw in the Bruce Boudreau era, for example, how forcing plays and turning pucks over can also bring out the worst parts of his game. So that's the number one thing that I'm going to be looking for in his return.
Okay, so I'm just reading up on scenes from Ernie Skate. I don't have anything else to say about Miller. Yeah, he's back tonight. Let's move on to Vancouver versus Florida. Kevin Lankinen gets starting goal, Harm. Any surprise there that they didn't go back to Thatcher Demko? I thought he started to really feel it in the second and third periods. I'm not surprised that they went back to Lankinen, but I also would have been like, yeah, this is probably a good move to start Thatcher Demko had they gone down that route.
No, I would have 100% only wanted to see Lankinen. The amount of wear and tear that his body must have taken, given the number of odd man breaks,
good point,
breakaways, like the side to side exploding from one side of the post to the other post. Also a game going to overtime, like that was probably a harsher physical workload than the Canucks would have ideally wanted for a start back. And look, Lankinen's played really well too. I think it'd be unfair to Kevin Lankinen to say just because we have a Vezina caliber goalie back that all of a sudden you become a traditional backup. I like the idea of this sort of being a platoon of them splitting starts until we can see a clearer trend of which goalie sort of emerges as being the stronger option.
DM Payne in the chat said Talkett is overthinking his lineup, and I don't think he's talking about the goaltenders. We take a quick look at the lines here provided to us by Daily Faceoff. Actually, shout out. Actually, I don't know if people know the guy behind Faceoff, so I'm not going to say his name, but I helped him cook up these lines. He asked me what the lines would look like because it was an optional skate today. So I was messaging him because obviously Nation Network, we own Daily Faceoff. So I was helping him put these together. So this was from Jeff Patterson, basically, when I read scenes from Morning Skate over at Canucks Army. It looks like Atu Ratu is going to be a healthy scratch tonight, Harm. So when we do the math there, you don't have another center, so it would look like Pius Suter stays with Dakota Joshua and Connor Garland. Teddy Blueger centers the fourth line. Nils Höglander might get a shot tonight with JT Miller and Brock Besser. Again, these are projected lines. These aren't confirmed because the team had an optional morning skate. But if Nils Höglander gets a shot with JT Miller and Brock Besser, the way I'm looking at it is saying you get the shot. If you don't make good on it quickly, then Pius Suter's going back up to the wing. Max Hassan's going to play center on the fourth line. Nils Höglander's going to play on the fourth line. Very limited minutes at that point. And then it's going to be Teddy Blueger moving up to center the third line. Did that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's plausible. I also believe that part of Höglander playing on that line isn't necessarily that Talkett believes Höglander is the best option to play with JT Miller and Brock Besser, so much as it is that by keeping Suter at center, they're able to use Blueger at the fourth line center position rather than third line center position. And that's key because to me, the fourth line has struggled. I think they've been missing um, uh, a reliable sort of veteran presence. I don't think Danton Heinen has brought enough of those qualities. I think he's been far too quiet. And really for the last few weeks, last couple weeks at least, it's been a lot of Sasson, Ratu, Baines, a lot of these AHL call-ups, and analytically, the fourth line has been caved. They've been hemmed in their own zone. They haven't chipped in with much secondary offense. They haven't brought much of an identity. And this isn't to say that, Ratu, for example, was playing horribly, but just they're inexperienced. And I think this coaching staff probably likes the idea of, okay, between Blueger and Heinen, now we have two players that on paper are above average fourth line pieces. And now Max Hassan, a younger player that's finding his way, has a little bit more support. So I think starting Höglander potentially with Miller and Besser would more so be about deepening the bottom six, especially given that Suter's looked good with Joshua and Garland too.
I like it. Okay, defense. Pull those lines back up, Jacob. Defense. Erik Brannstrom is expected to sit for a second straight game. Talkett spoke about the decision. We'll get to it in a second. I don't like this, Harm. I don't like it. I know Talkett said Mark Friedman skated well. He wanted to see more of him. I don't think the Canucks are a better team with Mark Friedman in the lineup over Erik Brannstrom. Again, I think tonight's a good night to find out how much of the third pairing struggles were because of Vinny Desharnais and not so much Mark Friedman. I didn't hate Mark Friedman's game. I just 2 straight games without Erik Brannstrom really does bother me. Like, I think, especially when you struggle to move the puck so badly. And I was here not justifying, but making sense of the move and saying, like, yeah, Brannstrom hasn't necessarily elevated his game when the rest of the defense corps had. When the rest of the defense corps has one of their worst games we've seen from them all season in the follow-up to that without Brannstrom in the lineup, I'm sorry, but to go back to it again, just I think it's a mistake. And when people say Talkett's overthinking his lineup, I think this is what they're talking about. Like, you need guys who can move the puck on the back end. And I'm sorry, like, it's just you're not getting that with this lineup and this decor right now. I know Talkett's not responsible for going out and getting Vinny Desharnais or putting together this decor necessarily. I know he likes his tall guys, so he's not totally absolved of it, but come on, like, you look at this defense core, I don't like this decision at all.
I'm right with you. I think this is a major unforced error. It'd be one thing again to sit him one game. Again, I didn't necessarily agree with it, but yeah, reset. And if you were looking at Brannstrom's numbers over the last 10 games, yeah, his form had dipped. His underlying numbers had fallen pretty significantly. But when you watch the blue line struggle as much as they did against the Blues, where they just could not transition it or get it out of their own zone with any level of consistency, just icings, forcing plays up the wall, way too predictable, nobody able to wheel around the net besides Quinn Hughes and skate it out. I look at Brannstrom's skill set, as far as his mobility, his outlet passing, and think that it's like you can't go without it in the lineup. This one completely has me puzzled.
Brad said this in the chat. He said the coach talked today, saying they have confidence in all the guys to cycle through them on any given day. That's because they're all third pair quality besides Hughes. And look, I think that sums it up. Like, that really does sum up how this defense core has been playing, or like had played the last game. And again, I think we don't need to spend more time on this, but Eric Brandstrom not in the lineup. You're overthinking it. You're overthinking it if Eric Brandstrom isn't in your lineup right now. And we'll see how it goes tonight. Maybe Mark Friedman's going to, and it's not even a Friedman versus Brandstrom thing. It's just Brandstrom helps this defense group so much. We are excited to see Derek Forbort tonight, see what he can bring to the lineup. His season got off to a rocky start, but obviously now we know everything he's been going through this year. You're just excited for him to hopefully have a clean slate and just kind of be able to focus on hockey and just play his game. Let's hear from Rick Tocchet what he had to say about the decision to scratch Brandstrom. This was asked by Jeff Patterson.
Yeah, I mean, we're built that we can rotate D. I'm not sure we have guys that are just going to play. They're consistently going to play every day. I think it's okay to have a rotation. Yeah, he's I think his defensive stuff slipped a little bit, but I think he's really been conscientious of it, and he has a couple of good practices. He'll get back in. I just think that for me tonight, I like the righty-lefty, and I think Freeds can add a little bit of a bite down low.
Add a little bit of bite down low. We'll see. We'll see if that's what happens. I just can't say I agree. Again, I justified it after the first game and said, yeah, maybe a reset. 2 games straight is just wrong. Like it's you're just making a mistake. That's all it is. And I rarely come out and say stuff like that. It's a mistake. It's a mistake.
I also think that Tocchet may look at this Florida Panthers team and go, look at how aggressive and physical they are up front. That could be problematic for Brandstrom to try and contain down low. But I almost take the view that physicality and aggressiveness is why they're one of the best forechecking teams in the NHL. And if you're going up against one of the best forechecking teams in the NHL, how are you going to expect that bottom 4 defense as it's currently constructed to exit the zone cleanly?
Look at how the Blues forechecked. Like, the Blues forechecked really well in that game, and that's what gave them all those fits. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing to me. Yeah, sure, they're bigger, they're stronger, whatever. But you just said it, Harm. You need to have guys who can move the puck when you're contending with a forecheck, like what Florida is going to bring tonight. It's a mistake. It's a mistake. I'll say it. Yeah, and Brad said, so if Brandstrom was in, like, who would play on their offside? You've obviously got options. We know Carson Soucy can play as offside. Brandstrom has played on his offside, and I think he's done well there. You want Eric Brandstrom in this lineup. We don't need to keep talking about it. Anything else you want to say about Vancouver or Florida about tonight's game?
Not a lot. Again, the biggest thing I'm going to be looking for, the biggest challenge is going to be how are they going to break the puck out against one of the best forechecking teams in the NHL. That's a part of the Panthers' evolution under Paul Maurice, is that when Andrew Burnett was originally coaching them, and they had that first time that they won the President's Trophy, but then had issues actually scoring in the postseason, they were way too reliant on rush offense. And then Paul Maurice came in, and he's helped create this identity of a more playoff style way of attacking, a lot more dump and chase. The defense has the green light to pinch really aggressively, to skate forward. That's going to be a major issue for them to contend with. That's the number one thing that I'm going to be looking for, because if the Canucks can't get out of their own end, they're going to have a tough time. They're going to be really reliant on Kevin Lankinen to bail them out.
Okay, let's do it. Family Feud, take it away. Jacob, Harm, mute your mic. Turn off your headphones. I'm going first.
Well, I guess that solves the mystery. We had someone in the chat saying, who's going first? That's the real news of the day. And it's the one and only David Quadrelli. My name is Jacob Lazar, and we're back for another edition of Canucks Conversation Family Feud. You guys won last week. Quads, you had a good performance going first. Harmon cleaned it up. You're looking to get on a winning streak here, get back above 500. Quads, I'm going to remind you again of the rules. You'll have 25 seconds on the clock. Your timer will begin when I finish reading the first question. If you can't think of a response, you can say pass. We'll come back to it at the end if we have time. David Quadrelli, are you ready?
As ready as I'll be. Yep.
All right. If you could bring back any former Canuck blue liner to help the current defense, who would you pick?
Ed Jovanovski.
What is the worst jersey the Canucks have ever worn?
Flying V.
Name a current Canuck player who played in the World Juniors.
Pass.
Who is the best fighter in Canucks history?
Gino Ojic.
Name a month with 31 days.
Oh, December.
Name a current Canuck who played in the World Juniors.
Oh, why can't I think of this off the top of my head? Quinn Hughes.
All right, just in ahead of the buzzer. Harmon can come back in now as I'll tally up your points.
Did Quinn Hughes play in the World Juniors?
Whoa.
Oh, did
Sure
I?
Harmon didn't hear that.
Did you hear me?
No.
Excellent. Excellent.
How'd it go?
Good, I think. I actually think I did really well. I did have
Okay.
to pass one question, but I came back to it. I'm just checking if I was right. Oh yeah, I'm right. Okay. Yeah, I think I may have just won the game. Like I think that might be 200 points. I'm not gonna lie.
All right.
And I'm not gonna read it, but don't look at the chat, Harm. I know you never
I
do.
never
but,
have it open.
Paul Papadoulis in the chat is making fun of me for passing. When that's what I've learned is if you don't know and you're gonna have to think about it, pass. So while
Yeah.
I was answering the other questions, I was thinking about my next answer to that question I passed.
So
Strategy.
Quads, you did well. 127 points.
Let's go. You got it, Harm. Close it out, buddy.
Harm, I will remind you again of the rules. You'll have 30 seconds on the clock. Your timer will begin when I finish reading the first question. If you give one of Quad's answers, you will hear the buzzer. And I will ask you to try again. If you can't think of an answer, say pass. We'll come back to it at the end. Are you ready, Harmon?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. If you could bring back any former Canuck blue liner to help the current defense, who would you pick?
Alex Edler.
Name what is the worst jersey the Canucks have ever worn?
Red Skate.
Name a current Canuck who played in the World Juniors.
Nils Höglander.
Who is the best fighter in Canucks history?
Gino Ojic.
Try again.
Tiger Williams.
Name a month with 31 days.
December.
Try again.
January.
All right.
The month with 31 days almost got me.
I had to think about it. You had to think
I
about it.
definitely thought about it. I laughed because it was hilarious, but then I actually had to think about it.
All right, Harmon, just tallying up your points now. It's going to be close, but I think you might have gotten there.
The Tiger Williams pull is awesome. That was a good one.
So I can tell you right now that one was the number 3 answer.
Nice.
Ojic was the number 1. You guys missed the number 2, but
Rick
yes,
Rippon.
Yes, Rick Rippon. Very good pull on Tiger Williams, though. That's a good one. The World Junior one was interesting. I actually have to search Höglander. I know there were some responses. I just
He was
don't know how
so
many.
good in that.
Yeah, he
World
played
Junior.
in World Juniors for sure.
He was really good. And then the last one. What'd you answer for 31 days, Harm? January?
January.
Well, unfortunately, that got you to 198 points.
No way. Are you serious? Okay,
Yes.
walk us through it. How did that? What happened?
Just
What did we do wrong?
barely short. So
What did we
I
do
think
wrong?
the big one for you guys was the first question, bringing back a former blue liner.
Yeah.
Harmon, Alex Edler was the number 4 answer, but only 10 points. Quads, only 5 for Jovanovski.
What? People are wrong. People are
Yes.
just wrong. Who's walk me through this list?
So the number 1 answer was Matthias Oland, but
Okay.
Oland was a left shot. And
Yeah.
I figured,
Yep.
if
People
you're
are
going to
just
bring,
wrong.
if you could bring someone back, you probably want a right shot defenseman.
Yeah.
Chris
that's
Tanev.
true.
Chris Tanev was the number 2 answer. And I think the fact that he's still actively playing and playing very well probably swayed that one.
You want Chris Tanev over Ed Jovanovski? I'm sorry, are our listeners
Yeah.
7 years old? Like, what are we talking about?
And funny enough, I'll just include here that Quads, had you said Gustav Forsling instead of Jovanovski, you would have won. He had 8 points.
That's crazy. Okay, Gustav Forsling over Ed. I don't swear on this show. What are we talking about? What are we talking? Okay. Anyways, I'm not even gonna start. That's ridiculous. 5 votes for Jovanovski. That's a win. That's a win in my books. You can put it as a loss, but in my head, it's a win.
The worst jersey. You guys got
5
the
votes.
number 1 and the number 2 answers, Flying V and then the Red Skate. The Red and Navy Orca was the number 3, and the Vancouver Millionaires was number 4. So that was a fun one. And actually on the survey, I had photos of all the jerseys so everyone could look and see which one they voted for. And I had every single jersey the Canucks ever wore, and a couple of them did not get a single vote. Not a single vote for the current Black Skate jersey as the worst ever. But nice spread across some pretty bad jerseys that this team has had in the past.
I'm sorry, have our listeners like watched hockey for more than 3 years? I'm just curious, honestly. And Jovanovski gets 5 votes. Chris Tanev, Gustav Forsling. Oh boy, come on.
I think some people probably interpreted the question as former defenseman who is still currently playing. I didn't specify. It was an open-ended question,
So it's
which
your
made
fault.
for some. No, that's how it's supposed to be. It made for some really interesting data. But yes, some people interpreted as current only. But I mean, Kevin Bieksa was the number 3 answer, and he's been retired for a few years now, right? So
we found all 5 of the Jovo voters. They're all in the chat right now saying, I voted Jovo. I've seen 5 people already saying it.
Yeah.
And Ty's Hockey Talk said, in all honesty, as a Forsling voter, I assumed it was D-Man in current form. So what he's saying is he would have voted Jovo. So technically we should get the win, but it's okay.
I don't think that's how it works. Current Canuck who played at the World Juniors. I think this one here is also one you can look at as probably one that you wish you had back. Höglander only 2 votes or 3 votes, sorry. And he was really good at the World Juniors. Quinn Hughes was the number 2 answer. Elias Pettersson, the overwhelming number 1 answer, 54 points for Pettersson. And Jonathan Lekromaki came in at number 3. He was the most recent of all of these guys to play at the tournament. Best fighter in Canucks history, like we already went over that. Ojic number 1, Rippin number 2, Tiger Williams number 3. Honorable mentions, Brashear, Jack McElhargy, and then just a handful of other guys in there as well. I think Craig Cox had a few votes. The usual suspects when it comes to.
You know what? I'll be
guys.
honest. Missing Pettersson on World Juniors, both of us missing him is like we don't deserve to win.
Yeah, and then I don't even have to go over the month of 31 days.
Also,
Harmon's about to make the case for why we should have won. I love this.
Höglander had 5 goals in 7 games and 11 points total. Like he dominated the tournament. I'm not saying he should have been a top 3 answer, but to only get 2 points for that is, come on.
I don't. So
he deserved like 5.
You
should have had like 2.
You were way to start the week, but we've decided that the bingo card is we're going to let people fill it out and it resets at the start of each week. Okay. I'm counting you pointing out how many goals Niels Höglander scored at the World Juniors as you saying he scored 24 goals last year. I'm counting that. I think that counts as a bingo square.
It was also the more recent one.
Yeah, that's tough. That is really tough.
You know what though? This was the closest one we've had, the closest loss. Like I said, you guys got to 198, and yeah, literally a Gustav Forsling pull could have been the difference. But really, the big one is if either of you said Pettersson, you would have blown it out of the water.
Yeah.
So
it's okay. It's okay.
Now, what I will say is there is a good chance that some people in there were voting for DPD because he was also at the World Juniors. But obviously, there's no way to distinguish those names when you get data. Regardless, I would imagine that most people probably meant forward Elias Pettersson, and that would have been the big one. That was the biggest number 1 answer we had of the 5. And then I'll just point out, you guys, December and January were the 1 and 2 answers for 31 days in a month. So you guys did not fumble it on the non-hockey related question.
Okay, let's get to anyone else. I've got some thoughts. Let's get to anyone else, which is brought to you by our friends over at Greta, a great spot for all games, home and away. We were there for the first viewing party of the year in October, and we'll be there next month for another one, so stay tuned for details on that. Just minutes from the arena. Come by before and after the game or whatever event you're downtown for. With arcade games, weekly drink specials, and the recently updated street food menu, Greta Bar YVR is the place to be. 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. Okay, Harm, I'm kicking off anyone else with a question for you. 3 defensemen. Pick 3 defensemen that you could add to this blue line right now. Pull up the blue line again, Jacob. Pull up the blue line. This blue line right now, you can add 3 defensemen in Canucks history to this blue line. Who are you adding to this team? Canucks history. Who are you adding to this blue line?
Are you doing the Ed Jovanovski thing again? Because I'll be
Yeah.
honest, I don't remember. Like his final season was 2005. I was literally 5 years old. I
Okay,
don't remember
And
enough
Quads Jovo
about
also
Jovo.
he was great. I love Jovo. He was also a left shot defenseman. So like
Okay, so fire Carson Soucy into the sun. Let's start there. Okay. Like, I'm sorry. The left shot defenseman holds no merit with me. I'm picking 3 defensemen to add to this team, and I would fire Carson. And no offense to Carson Soucy. I know I said fire him into the sun. But I would replace Carson Soucy respectfully with Ed Jovanovski if given the ability to. Easily. Like, Ed Jovanovski on this. Like, what are we talking about? What are we talking about? Ed Jovanovski on this blue line does way more for them than Chris Tanev at his absolute prime. What?
Well,
are we
how was he
talking
as a
about?
puck mover? I genuinely don't remember.
Okay, Ed Jovanovski was
He was
so
pretty good.
Yeah, he was
pretty good.
okay. Yeah. I gotta and look, I'm the same age as you, Harm. I've had to go back. I've had to hear stories about Ed Jovanovski. Like you said, 5-6 years old. Ed Jovanovski, we cannot let Ed Jovanovski fall down the Canucks. Like, he's a top 5 Canucks defenseman of all time. Absolutely. Like, if I had to give a top 5 right now, top of my head, who am I going to forget? I'll forget someone. Quinn Hughes is number 1, right? And we're just talking pure skill, right? Pure skill and what they were able to do when they were here. Not how long they were here, all this. Alex Edler might not be in my top 5, and I'm one of the people who say he's the most underrated, one of the most underrated Canucks defensemen of all time. Quinn Hughes is number 1, obviously. Matthias Ohlund is number 2. Ed Jovanovski is number 3. I can at least tell you that. I can give you that top 3 confidently. And look, all I'm saying is Jovanovski is a great answer. Didn't you say Ohlund?
No, I said Edler.
Okay, well, Ohlund is even a better answer for this blue line than Jovo. So I would, if you had Matthias Ohlund and Ed Jovanovski in this blue line, they're winning the cup. Like, they're winning the cup. You don't even need a right side. Who cares? Do the Tampa thing. You don't need a right side. You know what Matthias Ohlund makes Mark Friedman look like? Devon Taves. Anyways, that's my rant. I cannot believe the results there. Do we have our next survey in the YouTube description?
Yeah, it should be in the description for it. And the last thing I'll say on Jovo is because again, his best years came pre 2005. Like after the lockout, he had a couple decent years with Phoenix, but like early 2000s, so like 2000 up until the lockout, he was legitimately a top 10 defenseman in the NHL. He went in Norris voting, went 15th, 16th, 15th, 6th, 6th in 4 straight years. Like this guy was legitimately one of the best in the league. And yeah, I feel like Canucks fans often forget about him just because he didn't spend a ton of time here, only 7 years compared to guys like Ohlund and Edler who kind of stuck around for a long time.
I can't believe we lost Family Feud. Like, I actually can't believe it. It's hard for me to leave that in the past. I know it already happened and there's no going back. I cannot believe we lost Family Feud. But anyways, this one from Ray Pittis in the chat, and we're gonna do the naming guys portion of the show. Paul Reinhart was the best after Quinn Hughes. Jacob, what do you know about Paul Reinhart?
Before my time, but some of the old heads that I've heard talk about him talked pretty glowingly about his talent. But I mean, I never watched him play. I don't know enough to
also
stand up here
only
and talk.
spent like 2 or 3 years in Vancouver.
Yeah, another short.
I gotta look it up.
And Dan Hamhuis can kind of be considered the modern equivalent of that, where he was only here for a handful of years, but was widely considered one of the better defensemen in the league when he was acquired.
Okay, so Paul Reinhart is so old that HockeyDB won't tell me if he shot left or right, so I can't even answer that. But yeah, he spent the final 2 years of his career. I thought he played 3. Okay, anyways, final 2 years in Vancouver of his career, and he put up good numbers actually. 57 points in 64 games, and then 57 points in 67 games, and then he was done playing. This is a short career. I gotta look this up. Someone in the chat will know, like older listener, why did Paul Reinhart's career end? That was a short career. What happened? What happened to Paul Reinhart? That's the thing we're all trying to figure out. Interesting. Because I was saying, like, it's the end of his career. His career ended really early. How old would he have been in this season? Why do I not know this?
His career ended early due to some back issues. So he had some injuries and chronic back issues caused his career to end fairly early. Yeah, he was only 30.
Sucks.
Yep.
That sucks. That's crazy. Well, a little bit of history. Deep cut Canucks lore. You can cross that off the bingo card for today. Yeah, okay, Paul Reinhart. That's a good pull. That's a good pull. Okay, let's go to the chat here. Let's see what they have to say. This one from Paul Papadoulis. I asked this yesterday, but there wasn't any time, and it may be a dumb question, but what do you make of the crowd saying fire Talkett? They've been pretty loud after these back-to-back losses. I haven't heard it. Have you been at a game and heard that? I haven't heard it.
I haven't heard that. I wonder if Paul is more saying like the crowd is in like just the fan base, like
Oh.
online type thing, not necessarily
That
the
makes a lot more sense.
yeah. That's how I inferred the question. Uh, I haven't seen too much of that criticism against Talkett beyond just there's been criticism for him scratching Brandstrom, but I haven't seen many people saying fire Talkett. And to be honest, I think that would be ridiculous at this stage. The team's holding the fort down overall pretty impressively considering the injuries and absences they've had.
Yeah, and again, like his contract's up at the end of this season. I know we talked about that earlier in the year. I'm not trying to start anything. I'm just saying like they're not going to fire him mid-season. If they really wanted to make a coaching change for next year, like Talkett's probably going to finish the season. And look, maybe if this team doesn't make the playoffs, then we're talking about they just don't renew him. But like his contract's up at the end of the year. He doesn't have a contract beyond this year. So again, I'm not trying to start anything or be like, oh, what if? Like I'm just saying that for that reason, like I don't think we're going to see a mid-season firing, and I don't think this team would really even consider it, especially at this juncture. I think that's just silly. But let's go to, or actually, quickly on that. I just say this as well, because I didn't mean for what I just said to come across as like, like they're clearly trying to get rid of Talkett. I'm just saying like he doesn't have a contract for next year, and I look at this kind of right now as some real adversity for him as a coach in the sense of like you didn't have your second best defenseman, and all your other defensemen suck except for Quinn Hughes. And then you also didn't have your starting goaltender. Like that's hard for any coach to handle, especially when your starting goaltender again is a Vezina caliber guy. Like that's hard. Like that's hard for any coach. So I'm not trying to say like this is all on Talkett or anything like that. I'm just saying like this is a certain level of adversity. Like, can he adapt? Can he kind of lead the team through this adversity? I think that's ultimately like what the organization would be looking at when they look at, okay, like we're going to commit long-term to this coach. That's basically what I'm thinking this is. This is just, it's not a fire Talkett thing. It's just a, how does he handle this adversity? How does he handle this pressure?
Yeah, I don't think he's on the hot seat by any
exactly.
by any stretch of the imagination. He's doing, even if we just look at his body of work this season, even if we ignore all the success last year, he's done well overall. It hasn't been perfect. There are things you can nitpick for sure. Areas where maybe his adjustments could be better, but
he's
overall,
also their coach, and he won the Jack Adams last year. Like, let's also mention that.
Yeah, but my point is, even if you ignored all of that success last year, what he's done this year to keep the team afloat, given the injuries and absences, I think he's done well overall.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, you look at the hand he's been dealt, and any coach is going to struggle to navigate his team through it. Now it's just, okay, how does he navigate them through it? Now they've got JT Miller back as well. I don't even think I mentioned that. But anyways, just, something to answer from Paul Papadoulis there. This one from Minty Killer in the chat. With Seattle's future considerations for Sprong plus Hoglander and another minor asset, would Montour and Cap retain be a feasible target? Second, what do you think of Damon Severson as an option? Harm, Montour, Damon Severson.
It's fantasy land. The proposal there was what future considerations for Sprong, plus Hoglander and another minor asset. And you're getting not just Brandon Montour, you're getting him with salary cap retained.
Okay, that's not happening. Ignore that part of the question.
Well, even that, like they just signed him in free agency and he's having a killer year. Why would they trade Brandon Montour?
This person really wanted their message read. Okay, they said I've put this in the chat for the past few days. I'm trying to read everything.
He's having a great year. Like they're not going to move him.
All right, what do you think of Damon Severson?
I don't like his contract at all.
Okay.
He can move the puck, but he struggled in Columbus.
Hoglander, a minor asset for Damon Severson with money retained.
I would not want to touch that contract with a 10-foot pole.
All right. Thanks for your contribution to the chat. Anyways, let's go to what else do we have here? Yeah, Ty's Hockey Talk. I'm surprised Hoglander's spot in the lineup is not getting more attention. He had a good game the other night, and I'm glad it's getting recognized by Talk. Got to be a relief for him. Hopefully we do. And again, we were guessing and kind of projecting that Hoglander would be on that line with Miller and Besser. just kind of doing some math about the lineup and what it looks like and who they have available to them. I'm guessing it's Höglander. I would love to see Höglander get a shot in that spot. Again, he played well last game. He was forechecking hard. He was actually making plays happen or making things happen behind the goal line. And I think that was a big thing. Didn't take any penalties while he was trying to make things happen behind the goal line. So that really mattered. But like he looked as engaged as we've seen him. Not this season because he started the season really well, but in the last little while in recent memory, that was the most engaged we've seen him.
Awfully low bar though. Like, I'll be honest, I there was one shift where he couldn't quite corral the puck fully for the scoring chance, but then behind the net, he was really elusive on his edges. And I was like, oh, that's a really cool play to keep the possession alive. But outside of that, I didn't think that it was an especially strong game for him. I looked at that performance and went, okay, that's a baby step, but that's what it is. It's not even a full step. It was a baby step because there were other shifts where I looked at it and went, in the first period, for example, he had the puck below the goal line. And instead of protecting it and being able to make a play to help the Canucks keep possession of the puck in the offensive zone, he got stripped of it, and the Blues were able to sort of like the puck left the offensive zone, and that's happened again and again during the stretch where he struggled. So the Blues game was a baby step in the right direction, and I guess you could say the fact that he didn't have any glaring defensive errors or any undisciplined penalties is promising as well, but he still needs to show a lot more, in my opinion.
He scored 24 goals last year. All right. Anything else that you wanted to get to, Harm?
Nope.
All right. Let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day. What did I take yesterday? Oh, yeah, that's right. Rangers to beat the fraudulent Buffalo Sabres. Not even fraudulent. It's actually kind of sad what's going on in Buffalo, but the Rangers beat the Buffalo Sabres yesterday, bringing our record to 6-2. I don't even know what I'm at, but anyways, yeah, we took took the Rangers to beat the Sabres yesterday, and that is exactly what happened. What do we like tonight, Harm? What do we like tonight? Thursday night's a good slate of games. Thursday night is a good slate of games. Let's take an underdog. Let's see if we can find an underdog here. Okay, I hate to say it. Actually, I don't hate to say it. I love to say it. Do we dare do it? Yeah. Do we do it? I don't know if we do it. Flames taking on the Lightning tonight. That's putting the record on the line. I'll be honest. That's a tough game.
What, you don't believe in your wagon Flames? Your belief is only there when they're playing Nashville, the worst team in the league. It's not there when they're playing a good team in Tampa Bay, not even an elite team.
All right. I'll put my proverbial money where my mouth is, not my real money. I'll put it down on the Flames. I'll put it down on the Flames. Flames money line at plus 130 odds. Flames are at home. The Sea of Red's going to come out loud tonight. Do you see the plans for our new locker room? Did you see it get Ryan Pike posted on flamesnation.ca? Did you see this?
Oh, is this going to come out in 2035?
No, it's on its way. It's getting done faster than the Canucks practice facility. That's for sure.
Fair point.
So I can actually chime in here because I have a story. I've been inside the Calgary Flames locker room, and this was not quite 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, 2016 or something. And it looked like a community rink locker room. You would never have guessed it was an NHL team's room. And then I remember seeing maybe 2.5, 3 years ago, a video that the Flames social team posted from inside the locker room, and it looked exactly the same. They literally have not touched their locker room in decades. And so, you know what? Good for the Flames finally getting the new barn. And it was cool to see what their new locker room is going to look like, because man, that old one, when I was walking around through there, it was the most underwhelming experience I had ever had. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. We're going to get a tour of an NHL locker room. And I was walking through it like it's our local community center. It was embarrassing.
All right.
I can vouch for Jacob. I covered a game.
The frames, they have the photo frames of each guy in the stalls. That's my favorite part.
No, I actually haven't seen these photos.
They're like dollar store frames, and it's each player's headshot in their stall. It is pretty sad. It is pretty sad. But like I said, we're getting a new rink.
And Harm, when was the last time you were there?
This was right before COVID.
Okay, so yeah, and like I said, I think the video I saw was probably about 2 or 3 years ago. So maybe in the last year or two they've spruced it up, but it was pretty sad there through the 2010s when like the Flames actually had some good players and some decent hockey teams, but you would never have guessed it from their locker room.
We're getting a new locker room. Our boys are getting a new locker room. I'm excited about it.
Only if they make the playoffs this season.
We're coming,
Locker room
man.
plans are canceled if they miss the playoffs.
No, we're coming. We're coming. We got guys like Big Marty Pospisil. Anyways, let's go. Back to the bet of the day. Brought to you by Bet365 plus 130 money line. That is what we're taking. That was our bet of the day. Brought to you by Bet365, a proud partner of Canucks Conversation. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you sign up for an account. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. Final thing before we sign off, we've got super chats in the YouTube live chat, and I'm going to mention this probably at the start of every show to remind people because we've got a charity partner now for our super chats, the BC Mental Health Foundation. You want to make sure your question or comment gets on the show? Hit us with a super chat. Proceeds from our super chat will go directly to the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. So the super chat, we've got them before, but now we have a charity partner for them because we people were always like, where's the money going? And like, we weren't taking the like $7 that people were donating and keeping it for ourselves and like, oh, score, we got lunch. It's just been sitting there. So we were like, what should we do with it? We've got BC Mental Health Foundation on board. So the proceeds are going to go to them for super chats. So put a comment on screen. We'll be reading those ones. Yeah. Anyways, good cause. And we'll be sure to mention that. I think at the start of every show, we will mention it. But yeah, you can find that on the YouTube chat. All right. I think we will close it out there. For my co-host Harman Dowling, our technical producer Jacob Lazar, my name is Dick Vitrilli. Thanks so much for this episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.